If you follow my channel, listen to A Voice from Men Radio, or are familiar with the Atheism Plus fiasco, you may recognize this ridiculous character. Creepy Bittergrrl.
I would suggest that in order not to come up behind a woman, word to the wise, in a public space that would make her feel threatened, harassed, and sexualized, that you have your legs amputated above the level of your genitals. Patriarchy.
She's a gyno warrior battling privilege, patriarchy, and of course, penis, and views everything through the suffocating filter of white, educated, means of reproduction obsessed, middle class privilege. Creepy Bittergrrl came out of the extreme lulls had by a video John the Other shot in Vancouver, British Columbia. John had put up some posters on a construction site advertising a voice for men and men's rights in general, which expressed the thought that decent people don't hate and fear blacks or Jews or gays or transgendered or women, and by extrapolation, decent people shouldn't hate and fear men either. Now, when John put up these posters a week or so prior, they were torn down and vandalized. In some cases, the perfectly innocuous claim that men's rights or human rights were stenciled over with the single word, wrong. John had permission to put up these posters from the construction company and had confronted people tearing down the posters before. In that instance, the people tearing down the posters assaulted a security guard for the construction site who had tried to stop them. So when this happened again, John was ready. He didn't try to interfere with the people trampling all over his free speech rights, because he knew that's exactly what they wanted. He just filmed and engaged them in conversation, giving them enough rope to hang themselves as a babbled, self-serving, social constructivist nonsense, and not incidentally waving around box cutters. And when the police arrived, they ran off. Now, the clown with the biggest nose in this traveling circus was a woman standing off to the side, intently videotaping the action while the half-bright flying monkey minions did all the dirty work. Just hypo-agency in action. She would have been entirely unremarkable, except that she opened her mouth and let forth words that have since become legend.
I really prefer you didn't talk to me because you hate women. Thank you.
Well, please don't project imputations of malice on me.
I haven't said anything about you except please don't talk to me.
And
I would like you to respect my...
I haven't said anything about you. Let's go back and look.
These
I really
posters.
prefer you didn't talk to me because you hate women. Thank you.
Oh. So what she's saying is, I haven't said anything about you, except the imputation of malice that I just said. Okay, moving on.
Put them all back up. I mean, this is on private property. I don't know if that is, but this is owned by the construction site.
So you're saying that you posted bills on private property? That's like vandalism.
No, I did it with permission.
Maybe you should call the cops on yourself.
I have called the cops.
On yourself for posting in an illegal area?
No, I've posted with permission, sir. And
you asked the bank for permission to...
No, I asked the construction site who owns this for permission.
Really? That's interesting, you know.
Property here, so unless you have their permission, you actually don't have permission.
Well, actually I do, because the construction hoarding is owned by the construction site. Yeah, the construction hoarding is owned by the construction site, and I have the construction company who owns the construction hoarding. I have their permission.
You didn't talk to me because you hate women. Thank you. I haven't said anything about you except please don't talk to me.
And so, Creepy Bittergrrl was born. One problem I had with doing Creepy Bittergrrl was how little footage there was of this woman. Sasquatch has more exposure. She was little more than a grainy enigma. Until now.
To the daughter, I haven't had. I have mothered others in your place. Sisters, students, delinquent roofer nurses in training, mini-me's, and the occasional gang member or child of privilege who slipped off their blindfold. I have held the hands of immigrant survivors and toddlers who grew up to conquer mountains. I'm raising a society instead of you. Because of how I would fear for you from the moment you drew your first breath. How I would fight to find the words to give form to the nameless panic of living in a world that's not safe for us. I've mothered so often. I say, no need to go there again. And embrace this childless life. So, when this fear slips out, it is in secret, whispered syllables I say to the sky. If this body is built for the burden of bearing another, let me bear boys. Send me sons so I can sleep softly after the sun has set and keep forgetting the goosebumps of invading hands that march over, try to occupy, instead of feeling them by proxy, fearing for you. I can't speak the story that is written across my skin, marked transgressions or boundaries broken without breaking them again, but let it suffice to know that if I gave you life, so too I'd have to give you all that sad advice. Hold you like I've held so many adopted sister-daughter types through racking stories of how the self becomes suspect when instead of solutions, society offers you shame to repay such violations. I can't bear the idea that your perfect satin skin should ever be marred, compelled, a liability. That you should grow up fearsome of your own self and live through moments of torture that I couldn't take for you or stop. Unborn baby girl, you stay so I can keep you safe. The only way I know how. I'm building a world in your image, so I may someday see your face.
Wow. I haven't said anything about you except please don't talk to me. Talk to me because you hate women. Thank you.
Sasha doesn't want to give birth to girls because after nurturing the entire planet, and thanks a whole lot for that, Sasha, she would constantly be worried about the danger they would be in. She'd have boys because boys never face danger. You know, in the same sense that the only violence is sexual violence, which men never face. And of course, women are the victims of war because they become widows or something. You know, there's a lot of hate going on here, but it's not John the Other hating women. I don't think it's men hating women. But someone's hating. And I wonder where all this rage comes from.
Papa, we shall never have peace. No, nor will we weather the storm. I remember one time you met the love of my life. Glad to see he's a good hippie boy, you said, as if he were, as if he stood in your shoes, as if you had some say. And a father might, but not you, forevermore absent than present, your presence punctuating my life every 5 to 7 years with an evening dinner or a trip to the zoo, just often enough to create memories to underscore the subsequent years of silence. And it turns out, little girls are more like puppies, because they will come back and back and back to seek the hand that hurts them. I never once failed to be hopeful, to allow you to never fail to find some form or avenue for betrayal. Papa, we shall never have peace.
Oh, daddy issues. How very fucking trite.
If we're going back and forth this crosswalk that's outside of the holding facility behind the court at 222 Main Street, and the police officers are periodically coming by and forcing people out of the crosswalk and threatening to arrest them for using the crosswalk across the street.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sasha Wiley took part in a protest in front of the Vancouver police station where she and other protesters blocked traffic and allegedly bullied people and spit on cars. Like speech rights, Sasha is very discriminating about who she allows to go about their business. Free speech and freedom of travel is all very well and good. Just run yours by Sasha first. You misogynistic, slut-shaming, patriarchal fuck.
So can you tell us what happened last night here in front of the police station?
Yeah, so we were using this crosswalk in front of the police station, between the police station and the jail here as the site for our protest, and the police were blocking traffic, and at one point the police all left, and so we were still there blocking traffic, and there was a large kind of burgundy SUV with Idaho license plates who was kind of behaving really aggressively, like he was going to try and drive through the crosswalk regardless of the people walking there, and honking his horn. And so I went and stood in front of him to kind of, you know, like, look, you're not going to get through, and hopefully to discourage him from continuing to kind of be aggressive and unsafe. And so at one point he backed his vehicle up and then gunned it toward me like he was going to run me over. And so a bunch of people moved toward the vehicle. And so at that point the vehicle did actually start backing off, and then a bunch of police came out of the police station behind us here, and 5 of them circled me and grabbed me by the arms and told me I was under arrest.
So these were all men?
So these were all
male?
5 male Vancouver Police Department officers. That's what it takes to arrest a 140-pound school teacher here in Vancouver, apparently. And they had me on the ground for a good couple of minutes, and like one of them was sitting so I couldn't put my arm behind my back, but using his leg as kind of a lever so he could yank my arm against it until they moved to actually put my arms in cuffs. And I've got some swollen knees and concrete burns and things like that.
So that's your arm here?
Yeah, my wrist is really sore and swollen. Matthew, our Occupy medic, wrapped it up for me and has been taking care of me. I've got some little bit of concrete burn on my shoulder. That knee's swelling up pretty good today. That's where they caught my foot in the door there. And so then the officers, I think the ones who'd handcuffed me, went to kind of start patting me down and searching me, and I said, don't I have the right to be searched by a female officer? So after they'd grabbed my ass a little bit, they backed off and a female cop came over.
So you...
They claimed that I was going to be charged with property damage vandalism for spitting on the red SUV that was trying to run me down. I totally hadn't spat on it. And so in the end, they told me the charges were being dropped because they couldn't find the driver of that vehicle, so they couldn't find the victim. He's the victim, the guy who was going to run me down.
Knowing what we know about Sasha Creepy Bittergrrl Wiley, I feel vindicated in telling John the Other he was very, very lucky in his interaction with Sasha and her friends. The Great Poster Teardown had very little to do with John's posters and everything to do with Sasha Wiley attempting to provoke another incident that would end up on video and add points to her already full victimhood dance card. And Creepy Bittergrrl? Well, I have to admit, I'm in awe of Sasha Wiley. That is, from my point of view, if Sasha Wiley didn't exist, I would have to invent her as the stereotype of a mean-spirited, pretend victim bully, a sex-obsessed, privileged, middle-class white woman, completely enamored with her own neurotic worldview. And I can't think of any better way to show my appreciation. Now, before anyone claims I doxed Sasha Wiley and the bogus outrage and bullshit legal threats begin, I will point out the obvious. Her face, her name, and her occupation were freely given by her and available in news articles and videos online. Just because she didn't show ID while her and her cronies were committing illegal and unethical acts doesn't mean she had or deserves anonymity. Despite what she might think, she's not the victim here. And fuck you.